But here to share some words of advice and wisdom. Good morning, America's very own chief meteorologist, Ginger Z.
Yes. Oh, words of wisdom, just blankly, right? Like blanketly, like everything I could possibly share with you. Um, Gosh, I would start with the most, when people ask me what I would tell myself 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, doesn't matter what age it is, the same answer would come out. And that is to give yourself and others grace. We put such high expectation on ourselves and others, which is important because we can't just walk around saying, oh, whatever happens, happens. I mean, it'd be great if we could do that, but nothing would probably get done. But I think we do it to a fault. And I think sometimes, especially in my history of me, I have been the most hard on myself. And that's easy to say, but something that I've learned, and I think I can share here, is two things that I keep in mind all the time. And that is, it really doesn't matter and nobody cares, which sounds like the worst advice ever. Unless you give me a second to explain it. It doesn't really matter. Most things don't really matter. If you think about the daily frustration, the daily emotion that rises, I've been sad, angry, frustrated, happy, joy-filled, all of them. And it's not even 10 a.m. Today, I've had all of those. And that's how life is supposed to be. We are supposed to move through all of these emotions, not get stuck on the one. And so I think about that a lot because these things that I, especially frustrated, angry, I'll think about it in that moment and I'll say, am I going to remember this in a week? Almost never is that true. When it is true, I allow myself to put more emotion toward it. I allow myself to let it suck. And that is something, if it's going to matter a year from now and I'm going to remember it, of course, feel it, be there. But we are so hard on ourselves in those little moments that we get mucked up and it wastes time, really, to enjoy and get to the joyful part that we're also going to be moving through.
And okay, there you go.
Sorry.
And would you say that's your number one rule for success? Something that's always kept you going in the right direction? Having that mindset?
I don't think I've ever been 100% good at it, but it has helped me to succeed much more in the last 10 years of my life. I wish I had learned it a little bit earlier. And that's why I always say that's what I wish I would tell myself. I think what's helped me succeed is the very boring hard work. My work ethic is pretty strong. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't have, a dozen ideas creatively rolling around. And I've been able to organize those ideas, put them on paper, and be really half glass full about a lot and say, of course, that's possible. And I learned that from my mother. My mother she is the ultimate, you dream it, you can do it person. And it doesn't matter if it's getting a deal at Home Depot or if it's, becoming the first female chief meteorologist at a network. She taught me that you have to fight for and ask for what you want and what you need. I don't think I was always listening as well as I should have, but that's something that I've carried with me is her work ethic, my dad's work ethic, all the people around me. So,
yeah, I was like 5 when you took over. And when I saw you, I was like, this Ginger Z, she's got so much potential. I was the wisest 5-year-old in the world.
See, that's a talent. That's a talent to be able to feel that and see it.
Yeah, and I noticed you got all that clothes, like that's your big wardrobe. Do you keep that when you go to storm chase? Is that following you?
No,
because you're always looking sharp doing it.
This is like a decades long accruing of some of the staple pieces that's behind me. We don't have wardrobe. A lot of people think we get wardrobe provided. We don't. So we're responsible for that. And so out in the field, it's very easy. I wear my ABC coat, my ABC hat, and I put on a pair of pants and I'm good to go. So that gives me a break actually in figuring out what I'm going to wear. It is a welcome break.
Yeah. And you're from the Midwest, just like I am, and you studied at Valparaiso. This is one thing that I think about a lot, and I think a lot of college students think about when going up for jobs. In Indiana, I guess like the bigger schools for mass comm are like Purdue and University of Indiana. What was your mindset when you went to go up for jobs? Because you're on the biggest, I guess, news platform, in my opinion, Good Morning America. That's whole America wakes up to it. And of course, you worked at Flint, I believe, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I worked in lots of places
yeah,
before coming here.
yeah,
So that was, I think, coming from the Midwest, I grew up in Michigan, in West
yeah,
Michigan, and from a pretty rural area. I grew up on even like 4-acre small farm. And so I dreamed early of being in a city. And I didn't know how that was going to happen or what that was going to look like, because I truly, when I was a kid, didn't know what I was going to be. All I knew was I loved weather. And here's the funny part is I didn't want to be on TV. I saw that people did weather on TV, but I was not interested in that. Once I saw the movie Twister, I saw Helen Hunt's character, and she was storm chasing tornadoes, calling the shots, this badass scientist woman. And that's when I knew, and we talk about representation matters. I had never
mhm,
seen a scientist woman leading a storm chase. And here, Hollywood, albeit false and really bad science in that movie, gave us the image. And I was able to say, that could be me. Then I
yeah,
went to find a college, Valparaiso, where I could study meteorology and chase tornadoes for college credit. And that's what I did. And while I was there, then one of my professors said, hey, you should check out TV. And I did an internship with James Spann, who's like a weather king in our industry. And after that, I thought, that's exactly what I want to be. I want to be like James Spann, and Helen Hunt had a baby. And that's what I've become. I've been able to, and from that moment, and speaking of like the farm to city thing, that moment is when I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to go all the way to the top. And I have found my new whys. I always say, like, what was my why? My why coming out of college was, I love weather. It was super simple. I'm really a dork that loves to look at the sky and figure it out and then tell people about it. And then I think really when I hit Hurricane Katrina, my why changed into, I see how this impacts people, our
yeah,
country, history. And my why turned into quite a bit more compassion than just passion. And then I think I've gotten now to the place where I want to be active about it, where I've taken on all of the new, I created a unit, the climate unit here at ABC. And there's so much more to be done that every time I turn around, I think, oh, I made it here. You just make a new goal, and it's like starting over every time.
yeah.
I think that's exciting. I try not to look at it as a negative. It's like, okay, and now what?
Yeah, my major is actually in natural resource and conservation. So I like
Nice.
reading up and stuff. Then uh, looking at a few videos of you talking about climate change and
Mm-hmm.
stressing the importance of that. But this is a big thing. A lot of us in school, we have to get mentally prepared for this exam or a quiz. How does one get mentally prepared to drive through a hurricane or a tornado?
I think it's both experience, it's preparation and education first. I have the real education and experience from all the way when I was in college chasing tornadoes through my career. But it's also knowing. I wrote a whole chapter in my new book about it called Cat 5 Risk Assessment, because I think I, over time, have become numbed a bit to some of the realities, of how other people live, or what real anxiety would look like, or what it would look like to prepare. So I try always to check myself before going into every storm chase or every, covering any hurricane, is what are the risks? Why am I going, and
Yeah,
how can I really make a difference in this? And what story can I tell that could actually impact people? It's got to be more than there's a bunch of stuff flying. Like, we know that. That's not it. There's more to it than that. And I think that's the exciting part about seeing where these stories can go going forward.
yeah. And you did mention your books. You are a incredible author. You have 4 books. You have Chasing the Present, A Little Closer to Home,
Mm-hmm.
Natural Disaster, and
Uh-huh.
then I'm drawing a
And there's
blank.
there's actually there are 3 chasing helicities. So it's 2 adult books and 3 kid books. So it's pretty amazing to think that I became an author, because you would have told me that 10 years ago, I would have laughed. I would have been like, no, I'm pretty much a science person. And I always like to, when I talk about advice to give, this is
Mhm.
something that I'm really, really wanting to get across lately, is I've learned so much just in the last 5 years of writing these books about labels. I labeled myself since I was in 7th grade and got 1 B on a paper in English. And the teacher said, hey, maybe writing's not your thing. I intercepted that, put it in my head and said, you're not a writer. You're not a good writer. And I labeled myself. And then I kept that label. I repeated that label. When they say put it out in the universe, I put
Yeah.
that out in the universe. I'm not a good writer. I don't write. And those things have power. That
Mhm.
statement has power. So until I was pregnant with my son and I was looking for a baby book about weather and I was underwhelmed with what was on the market, I thought, I mean, I could handle writing a baby book, like a couple, I don't know, 16, 20 pages and some pictures and things. And I went to a publisher with the idea of helicity, which is my favorite variable in tornado forecasting. And they said, that's more of like a chapter book. Try to write that and then come back. And I was like, oh, I'm actually not a writer. And they said, okay, well, why don't you try? And I went and tried because they encouraged me to. And I came back and I'd written a couple of chapters and they said, we love it, make a trilogy. And I was like, what? So I learned that label, even if you've had a label on yourself, kind of go back and say, what is that thing I repeat about myself? Is it really true? Because I always loved writing. And I'll tell you, since I started writing again, and now 2 times over New York Times bestseller, I am a writer. I'm an author. And that's a really very cool label to be able to put on myself.
The best. I love hearing that. And lastly, I always ask people this when they give words of advice throughout your whole career. What's one word you always use before you walk out the door and you head off to your job?
Well, it has changed. And there's something I do every morning that keeps me, and I really learned it. I mean, society has gotten very hot on this, but I learned it after taking some real time for my mental health. And that is every morning when I'm in the shower, I take a moment and I make 2 little footprints that are to represent my son. I put 2 handprints for me and my husband, and I put a heart around it all. And then I write something that I'm grateful for. It could be as simple as a manicurist, because sometimes it's just pretty amazing that we have people that could do nails that well. It could be something like my grandmother's love, which is much heavier, deeper, but whatever it is that I'm thinking in that moment, I allow that to come out and be on my gratitude wall. Then this is on the shower door, like the steam. Then on the other one, I'll write an intention. And I learned that in yoga about a decade ago, where I would set an intention. They always said, set your intention for the practice. And about a year or 2 into practicing yoga, I thought, wait a minute, that works really well because I keep coming back to it. That intention.
Yeah.
Now I do that for my day. So I'll set up an intention for the day and then I'll think, what was that I wrote on there? What that does is gives me a pause. I've gotten much more into meditation, and that's really all it is. Prayer is the same way. I think, depending on how people like to do it, having that self-reflection, but also being able to separate ego and realizing how not big of a deal I am is very important.
Yeah. I really appreciated that. But now it is time for your exit interview.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been keeping up with more world news or pop culture news, but it's crazy. It's crazy. Around Arizona, they've had a little incident at Area 51 where aliens have they've left and they're actually stealing people's identities. So just to make sure you are the real Ginger Z and not an alien, I'm gonna have to give you an identity test with my sidekick. Okay, I'm gonna ask you questions only the real Ginger Z would be able to answer. If you are the real Ginger Z, of course. Okay, are you ready? Are you accepting these terms?
I'm ready.
Okay, that's something the real Ginger Z would say if she were an alien. But here it is. If the Earth was flat, we have a lot of flat earthers. If the Earth was flat, how can we have hurricanes?
Yeah, it would be impossible because we wouldn't have 2 sides of a globe that are different temperatures, the equator being hot, the poles being cold. You'd have to have not only a difference in temperature over that distance, but you also have the rotation of the Earth, which is the Coriolis effect, which creates circulation.
Okay.
No alien knows that.
Okay, very aggressive. Let's take that down. So at Good Morning America, you have an amazing cast and crew and everybody co-hosts and everybody. What's the superlatives? Who is who? Is Robin?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I'd say Robin is Grace. She is the thing that I had to learn and now, try to give as I think she's just lived that way her whole life, I bet. Michael he has 2, I think. He is he's so genuine, and I want to put in there the fun of it. You know, it sounds really boring to say fun, but the genuine fun. I mean, he is so with everybody. He's part of, you know, everybody's day. He is there and he lightens everything. I would say that for sure. And George is so much, I think, like me. I don't know. We're very serious at times, but he has such warmth and humor and energy, like a different energy. I love that about him. So I'd say those cover the three.
Okay. That seems all right. That seems like it's pretty accurate. I have two more. Here it is. What's the most random thought you had during a hurricane? Like any jingle popped in your head, like the most random thing.
Yeah, right. A lot of times, I think this happens almost every hurricane, and this is when I know I'm not normal. Because we'll be watching things happen, and I'll be like, "Now, what did I have for breakfast? Was that enough? Did I eat enough?" You know, so it's always like, was that a banana or was that yesterday? Or sometimes it's even if we're watching the hurricane from another place, it's like, what hotel room? Because I'm in a different hotel room all the time, and I'll be like, what was my hotel room again? You know, so when we get back there after this is done, that I can take a little nap.
I'm always doing like environmental science stuff, and I always have random thoughts because I do writing too, but for television writing, like late night stuff, I just think of the stupidest things and stupidest jingles while I'm like working with biochar, something important that could probably blow up.
Well, that's the beauty. You can be a complex human being that has many different thoughts and talents all at the same time.
Okay, here's the last one. Is there any type of secret like ritual or like weird warm-up thing you guys do at the show?
Not together. I'm sure people have independent ones they do. For my part, I like to play music. I like to have some sort of vibe set with music. My current hairstylist that's just so fun. She brings in such joy and such, you know, like you want to flip your mood around, you get around Marilyn. And I realized the other day, this is quite funny. So I've been doing shows for 20 years and I always had the IFB in. So I'm always talking to someone. And in the last 10 years, that someone is Max or Sam, the two meteorologists I work with, or both. So I've been saying, hey, Max, hey, Sam, for 10 years. I realized the other day when I said, hey, Siri to my phone, I was like, I've been doing this much longer than anybody else has because I've had my own Siri that answers all of my questions in my head. So now I think I do that, not as a ritual, but I start the morning when I'm all mic'd up and stuff. Hey, Max. Hey, Sam.
I'm going to start doing it. I'm still in it now.
Yep.
But thank you for answering these questions. We're going to take this back to the lab. We're going to review it just to make sure this is the real you, because
you got it.
We're not too sure, but we do appreciate the words of advice and the answers for the identity test. It was very lovely. I really appreciate you being able to do this. I know it's been a crazy week, and you're always all this stuff going on. You're chief meteorologist. Come on.
That's right. We're always busy. Thank you. Well, thank you, and good luck with everything.
Yeah, and have a great day. Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Well, everyone, that was Miss Ginger Z. So amazing, so amazing. Up next, we got Josh Rosen. He's on the show. He's an impressionist. He's very funny. And we got some things written up to do. They'll be very fun.